Today's reading is from Matthew chapter 3, verses 4 through 6. It opens with a description of John the Baptist. It's kind of a fun one. It says he wore cheap clothes and he ate honey and locusts. That was his food. In other words, he was a frugal man, but he didn't have to be. He was the son of a priest. Back then, he would have had plenty of money to eat what he wanted and wear what he wanted, but he chose to live in poverty. And that's the opposite of how we live, or how most people today live, right? We borrow money so that we can afford to live in a way that we can't actually afford to live. John chose to live with less than he could afford. And then Matthew tells us that people came from all over to confess their sins and get baptized by John. So baptism, what was John's baptism? It required people to admit that they were sinners, then get dunked under the water. It signified a death, the death of an old life, and the birth of a new life. I actually think John got this idea of baptism from the Jewish tradition of the mikvah. We don't have much time to talk about it, but the mikvah was a bath that Jewish people would use to get ceremonially clean so that they could worship God. The cool thing is that the water in a mikveh had to be gathered naturally. It couldn't be gathered by human hands. It came from rainwater or springs or some other natural source, and they called it living water. So when Jesus offered the woman at the well living water, he's saying he is the source of all life. You can't gather it on your own. He's God. In other words, God's grace is given. We can't earn it. We can't gather it. So think about it. Before people even saw Jesus, John is talking to them about him, and they're choosing to follow him. They're choosing to be baptized into his discipleship. That's faith. They left their old thinking, their old habits, and followed a Messiah who hadn't even arrived yet. So today, I say we pray a prayer like that. Would you pray and ask God to give you that kind of faith today?